which he held since 2019. Well, a weight of change, the Liberal Party secured 42.1% of the vote, and the Conservatives came second, with James Yan securing 38.7% of the vote in Burnaby Central. Meanwhile, the NDP leader finished third in the race. What's also interesting is that the New Democratic Party contested 343 seats, out of which they only bagged 7. This is a clear rejection of Jagmeet Singh and his tactics and ideology. Once a kingmaker, he has now stepped down as the leader of the NDP. As the Khalistanis are routed from power in Canada, we ask, will this end the India-Canada quagmire? We'll talk about this with our guest. Joining us on the show at this point in time is Ambassador Bhaspati Mukherjee, former diplomat. Bharat Bharai, Foreign Affairs expert, Chairman of US-India Community Foundation, also with us on the show. Rabinder Sajdev, Foreign Affairs expert. Gautam Mukherjee, Senior Journalist, also with us on the broadcast. Last but not the least, Ambassador Ashok Sajjanhar, former diplomat, joins us on the program as well. Ambassador Sajjanhar, sir, I'll begin with you. Well, this is good news for India, isn't it? A, the Khalistani sympathizers that have, tried to ruin India-Canada relationship are ousted, and how? And secondly, this is perhaps an opportunity for both the countries, more so for Canada, to turn a new leaf. India and Canada bilateral relationships suffered a great deal under Justin Trudeau, who himself was a Khalistani sympathizer. And considering the fact that we are at the heaviest odds against Pakistan at this juncture, an understanding from Canada will be a pat on the back.
Thank you very much, Vineet. I agree with you. I think it's a big development that not only has Jagmeet Singh Dhaliwal, his party, been decimated. You know what, he had more than 20 seats in the parliament, in the last parliament, and here he has fought for all the 343 seats, and he has come a cropper completely. He's just won 7 seats, and he has lost his own seat. So of course that's a big setback as far as NDP is concerned, and also Jagmeet Singh Dhaliwal. Secondly, let me also say that ever since Mark Carney came to power just about 6 weeks ago, he has been trying to mend fences with India, because obviously it was Justin Trudeau, it was his personal peak, or whatever you might wish to call it, that he had moved in the manner in which he had moved against India. You remember in 2023, just after he'd come back from India, on the 18th of September, he had risen in the Canadian Parliament and accused India of being involved in the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar. And no evidence could be provided, because there was no factual accuracy to his allegations. So that has taken our relationship south, and it's continued to go south with all the allegations and accusations that were made by Justin Trudeau, his foreign minister, also the security chiefs, etc., etc. Ever since Mark Carney came to power, he gave indications that he would like to mend relations with India, and things had started moving in that direction, and there had been conversations that had been set up between the two sides. Now I think that Mark Carney is very close to the midpoint mark. 172 seats are required. I think he's hovering around 168, 169 there. If he has to get the support of any party, it possibly would be from the Free Quebec party that has got a significant representation in this parliament. As far as NDP is concerned, it has lost even the national party status. So, and that party would have nothing in terms of, any problems or issues as far as India is concerned. I think India is also very keen to set this relationship on track, in order, because I think it is a win-win partnership for both sides, for both countries. We have seen it in the past, and things were moving well when Stephen Harper was the Prime Minister, before the Liberals came to power, about 10 years ago or so. So I think there are the prospects look good. Even as far as Canada is concerned, I think they definitely would be looking at the Indian market. Indian market is a large market, it's a growing market, and the sort of provocations that Canada has had to face both on the trade front as well as on its sovereignty front, with Trump demanding that it should become the 51st state of the United States. I'm sure Canada is also looking to diversify its markets, its trade, and also get political support and political, good relations with some of the major powers globally. And India, of course, would be very much in his eyes. So I think both sides would really want that, and I can foresee that going forward, our relations will settle down to a mutually advantageous position.
Right, absolutely right, sir. And Mr. Sachdev, Canada is obviously, also paved with the way Donald Trump has been aggressively positioning to, in fact, have Canada become the 51st state. But the fact of the matter is, sir, that Canada needs to look outward. They have a new prime minister, they have a new leader, but it's the same party. Do you think anything is going to change? And of course, the silver lining is that the NDP, a party that was spewing poison against India, was prompting Canada to shelter enemies of the Indian state, is no longer in a position of power that it got into in 2019. How does this dynamic and this permutation combination work out for India, but also in favor of Canada, that obviously wants to shun Donald Trump? It wants to, in fact, completely relegate Donald Trump and his rhetoric to divide Canada.
Vinay, a pleasure to be with you, Ambassador Sajanar and Bharat Bareji. Certainly, I think there will be a difference. The party is the same, but there is a difference. And there will be a difference, as Ambassador Sajanar also says, in the tone and tenor and conduct of the relations which we will see emanating from Canada. So there will be definite change. However, some things will remain the same. For example, like the limit on the number of immigrants that they have planned, around 350,000 or something like that, right? The security guarantees which the students have to give now, which were raised, who go to Canada now. So, because those were, they arrived at those numbers after a bunch of thorough economic analysis or whatever, so those would not change. The numbers of immigrants or the categories they are making, or the security guarantees and all. But on a geopolitical level, much will change. The tone and tenor will change, and openness, in fact, an eagerness to partner with India. As we've seen, in fact, Carney's, speech, celebration speech, whatever, he was slamming America and Donald Trump. He said this whole age is over of friendship. Those are very strong words. We have to now chart a completely different path. Whatsoever it be, now they need more partners or other partners. Now, in the so-called quote-unquote free world, other than China, with whom also Canada has friction over time, a much severe form of friction. Okay, that leaves what? India? It leaves Europe, sure. So India definitely becomes a need or a must for the new liberal dispensation to work with. Now, that said, some things will linger on. I think the past, what will also change is that I think we will see much more empathy, much more cooperation with India in terms of, again, the geopolitical context or in the pursuit or investigation of cases pertaining to Khalistan and promoting of extremism. That will also change. What will not much change, I think, which will linger on, maybe put on a back burner, would be, I think, the cases which are already being pursued by the Canadian law and order agencies, right? The Royal Canadian Mounted Police. So whatever cases they already have, I think they will continue on them, maybe with some back burner or with a fresh insight. Maybe those cases could be, in some way, shape or form downgraded, etc. But those could linger. So I would not think that everything will be wiped out of the slate, because those are cases which are already lodged in the whatever criminal system. So there has to be a closure to those cases, right? So that will be lingering, but hopefully there will be achieved closure on that. On the geopolitical side, trade, I think, Trudeau was supposed to come soon after his visit, which went bust to India. He was supposed to come with the largest delegation of Canada to India to signal India, I think, a Asia pivot strategy, which was to start with India, a delegation coming to Bombay. So, which would, I think, we could see something like that coming forth pretty soon because they need trade partners. So relations will improve. In my mind, there is no doubt to it. Lastly, regarding Jagmeet Singh, see, Jagmeet Singh, I mean, NDP is another day of Canadian party. So they've lost due to their domestic reasons or whatsoever be. And maybe, one sliver of the Khalistan aspect. Or maybe the voters in Canada thought that, the threat from Trump is so much, let us all rally behind the Liberals and vote the Liberals, and in the process, the NDP suffered. Whatever it be, they've come down to 7, 8 seats right now. And the coalition, if it comes, as Ambassador was saying, could be from the Quebec party, the Free Quebec. And interesting thing, Mike Carney's in his speech, he was often talking in French. He was talking in English, but then he would segue into French and then come back to English and all. And they have 23 or so seats now, it seems. So if they're falling short, that could be the coalition. NDP may be sitting out in the wilderness now.
Bharat, what's your take on what's transpired in Canada? Obviously, this is important to understand that Justin Trudeau and some of his actions have led to a lot of problems with India. And that is going to be perhaps a focus that Canada wants to work upon. India and Canada for a very long time have had hot and cold relationship, but it never got so bad as it did starting 2019, 2020, especially when NDP came into the picture. Do you think that this change is for the best?
Well, there are two factors that are very evident here. Number one, the Trump effect. Trump should not have said, it's one thing to say one time that, oh, would Canada consider becoming the 51st state? And as soon as he realized that there was a strong opposition, both from the people as well as from the politicians, he should have backed off. It's one thing to make a soft suggestion. It's another thing to keep on repeating the theme, which really helped Mark Carney and his Liberal Party won the election. Second is the Khalistanis. NDP, so-called, they had so many seats. And if you look at the voting pattern, the Conservatives gained 7.7% vote share, the Liberal gained 10.9% vote share, while the NDP lost the biggest 11.6% vote share. So I think the Khalistanis have highly overrated them. Even in USA, they are highly overrated. Whenever we see that there are demonstrations by Khalistanis, it is same 200-300 people living in the area that go from one place to another, and people think, they have big support. But they really don't have support. Most of the Sikhs even don't care for them. I can speak about Chicago area where we know many Sikhs. They participate in all the mainstream activities with rest of the Indians. They segregate themselves somewhat in the Gurdwaras because there are some extremists who are teaching the children there what to do. But most of the other Sikhs, they are mainstream national patriotic Sikhs. And what happened in Canada should teach them a lesson that they are highly isolated, because I think there were two factors in Canada. One was Trudeau was highly rating them, the NDP, because of his so-called socialist policies. People voted them once, but Trudeau relied on them so much, he magnified them so much, he gave them so much importance, and when the Khalistanis were trying to do their activities, anti-India activities, Trudeau, instead of trying to advise them that, hey, try to be good Indians, try to be good Canadians, and try to be good citizens, he sort of promoted whatever secessionist agenda they had. And this election has shown that these guys have no support in Canada. And of course, Trudeau and his father's personal cult, trying to always support Khalistanis, going back to even Kanishk bombing, that has backfired on them. On the other hand, Mark Carney, he is a very seasoned diplomat. He was the governor of Bank of Canada, and then he was the only Canadian who became the governor of Bank of England. So he's a very seasoned diplomat who has dealt with many economic crises, both in 2008, national crisis and international monetary crisis, as well as the Bank of England managing when there was a Brexit. So he gained a lot of respect as a professional banker, and now he has made himself a very seasoned diplomat and won the elections. And I hope that this will lead to better relations between India and Canada.
That's the big question, isn't it, Gautam? Is this going to, in fact, thaw the tensions that have assimilated and accumulated over the last few years, courtesy, these Khalistani stooges, as well as, an ignorant Prime Minister like Justin Trudeau at the helm of affairs? But do you think this Donald Trump dynamic, Gautam, is likely to, in fact, help India and Canada do better in terms of a bilateral relationship?
Well, India will certainly do better with America because it is going to finalize a treaty preparatory to a full-fledged FTA. But the first part of it, the terms of reference are done, and most observers, most participants are talking about it being finalized by the autumn. So perhaps even earlier in my estimate. So India will do fine with America, and the tariff war will pass us by with very little effect, negative effect. As far as Canada is concerned, the fall of Jagmeet Singh's party means that the Canadians are not interested in his politics. Trudeau was strapped to take support from the 24 that Jagmeet Singh party had earlier. Now they're down to, as the earlier panelists said, 7, 8 maybe. By the time all the counting is done, Jagmeet has lost his own seat. They will team up with the Quebec party, New Democratic Party, and as a consequence, the color of the politics vis-a-vis India in Canada will change. Carney, I don't think, is going to carry on with Trudeau's policies at all. I think he's going to restore the relationship to a good, even keel with India. As far as what Canada does with America, with Trump demanding various things, fentanyl in particular, the drugs, and the people smuggling, all that pulled back, I think Carney is going to be very quick about cooperating with all that in order to bring down the tariffs imposed on Canada. And if he cooperates fully, it will happen. As far as the rhetoric of taking over Canada goes from the American side, I think he meant it. It isn't just one of those things because of the huge subsidies that Canada receives from America and the fact that Canada has no economy that can survive on its own as it stands. So that'll have to be worked upon. But now that Carney's won, or nearly won, I don't think he's going to take a strident tone. It helped him win. But I think he's going to come to terms with Trump's America as soon as he can. Vineet.
Let me bring in Ambassador Sajjanhar here once again. Ambassador Sajjanhar, in fact, Jagmeet Singh was one of the very few people. Is Ambassador Sajjanhar with us? Perhaps not. Okay, Mr. Sajdev, let me in fact pose this question to you. In fact, it was only Jagmeet Singh, Mr. Sajdev, and then Justin Trudeau that kept on harping upon the fact that they had credible proof of India's involvement in those killings in Canada, specifically of a terrorist by the name of Niger. But none of this corroboration, none of these so-called proofs materialized. In fact, in 2024, Justin Trudeau also went on to say that he had credible intel when it came to these allegations against India. but the damage had already been done. Do you think that a part of the expectation, Mr. Sisde, would also be that all these false accusations, including trying to include the Five Eye into this conversation as well against India, there has to be an apology from Canada. There has to be a clarification at a diplomatic level that, okay, we goofed up.
Sorry, that's a big question. I think Ambassador Sajjanar could manage it much better. But my sense is that, yes, some of those things we will see a new trajectory going forth. But as I said initially, my hunch, I don't know, I mean, my estimate is that some of those cases will go on. Okay, yes, there could be some closure. I mean, the government saying, okay, this report we investigated, not found anything, report closed, file closed, done, dusted, out, right? So some of those lingering matters will remain and then, closed out. I'm not so sure about an apology. Honestly, I do not know on that count. I will not venture into that. But we will see
but how does this work, Ambassador Sajjanar? How will this work now? They've tried to, malign India's reputation, and there's not been a single shred of evidence against the accusation. And in fact, in a way, Justin Trudeau had taken all that back, saying that he only has credible intelligence. There is no proof that Delhi was involved in any of those killings. Do you think that Canada, under this new leadership, needs to close that loop, for the lack of a better word?
Yeah, I think so. I agree with Ravinder what he said, that, there definitely we will see, some difference in terms of the focus on that particular issue, because, that was the one subject that was completely dominating the bilateral relations, and, nothing could happen as far as bilateral relations are concerned, because, that issue was still wide open, and we were seeing new allegations and new accusations about India's interference in the elections, that were to take place in Canada. And we see that a large number of agencies, whether it is RCMP, I don't know whether Melanie Joly, the former foreign minister, she's going to have a role in the new cabinet or not. We'll really have to wait and see. But, there are so many people who have come out so very strongly against India. So we'll have to wait and see how all this plays out. But I think as far as, as far as Mark Carney is concerned, he's not a political animal, so to say. He's been a banker, both in Canada and the United Kingdom. He's never won an election earlier. He's never held any, senior political post as such. So we'll really have to see how he takes it forward. But I think definitely there will be attempts to tamp down on this issue.
Pretty much a clean slate, sir, like Donald Trump, right? Pretty much a clean slate like Donald Trump, who had no political experience before he became the president. So you need a Donald Trump-like to contend with a Donald Trump.
Yeah, meaning to contend with the Donald Trump, yes. He's doing that very well. But I think as far as India is concerned, I think India has behaved in a much more balanced, sober manner. We have just been responding and reacting to what Canada was saying about, credible allegations and all that sort of things without providing a shred of evidence. So I think India has conducted itself in a very dignified manner. And I'm sure he would recognize that, he would see that. And behind closed doors, when the conversations take place, and I think there should be high-level visit that should take place. Behind closed doors, I think there would be efforts made from the Canadian side to make amends for this, to send out a message that, let bygones be bygones, let's look forward. What are the, actions themselves, Vineet, will, spell out the current state of relations as to what it was there earlier, how it is behind us. And of course, if Canada is not pursuing those cases, I think we should be quite, rather than taking Canada's nose, rubbing it in the ground for, public viewing and, putting, slapping mud on its face for what it has done. I don't think, democracy and diplomacies, they work in this manner. I think we really need to look at the outcomes, and if you are able to get significant outcomes, because I think there is huge possibilities, whether it is import of uranium from there or in terms of economic exchanges, in the area of technology, in the area of energy. I think there are so many possibilities that we can work together. Let's focus on that, and if if Canada is very clearly conveys to us that there was a goof up, there was a mistake, I think the previous government, Justin Trudeau's government, was so dependent for its survival on Jagmeet Singh Dhaliwal that he was really led by a noose to do what he really did. So I think if that is
All right, sir.
behind us, we can
All
start
right,
looking at
we've run out of time.
and taking
Appreciate
forward.
everybody who joined us and spoke on this important development happening in Canada, and let's find out in the course of the next few months how the situation between these two countries, which has been strained severely in the past, is likely to change. We take a break. Be right back.
अगर आप बनना चाहते हैं एंकर या फिर आप में है जुनून एक तेज तर्रार न्यूज रिपोर्टर बनने का, तो आप ज्वाइन करें ITV और इंडिया न्यूज NewsX का मीडिया स्कूल। ITV नेक्स्ट मीडिया इंटरनेशनल स्कूल का कोर्स